It's about who you are as a human being. The agency I'm acquiring, I had to look the woman in the eye and promise her I would take care of her team and take care of her clients.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
Lindsay, I could not be better if I tried. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. It's finally cooled down in the weather here. It's like nice fall day out. So good day to talk to some people, get some podcasts done, and hang out.
I know. I was super excited that we got to see you for a little bit last week. But unfortunately, my travel took me away for the week that you spent here, which was not ideal. But I'm excited to be heading in your direction this weekend. So anyway, without further ado, why don't we welcome our guest to the show? Today, I have one of my very close friends, someone I've gotten to know a fair amount over the last several years, Mr. Rob Bowen of Patriotic Insurance Group. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we have been friends for a while now, right? Like, I'm trying to think when I first met you, and it feels like a very long time ago.
It's been a couple of years. I don't remember the first time we met. I think I probably knew who you were first. Your name was out there. And then we probably met up at a conference or something.
Well, I don't know about that because your name's pretty out there too, if I'm being real, right? So, Rob, I actually think the first time I knew you, you were doing something for veterans, collecting suits. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, we've been collecting suits for almost 6 years now.
Yeah. Did you just finish up your drive for this year, or is it just kicking off? I'm not sure.
It's continuous. It's continuous. Yeah, we're actually in the process, unfortunately, of phasing it out shortly, but it's been a continuous process for the last 6 years.
Yeah, I love that you do that. So anyway, so Rob, you and I have gotten to spend a fair amount of time over I don't know, maybe that's probably the understatement of the year. We've gotten to spend a fair amount of time together because you're looking to grow your agency. I think there's no two ways around that. You've been exploring growth by acquisition for a period of time. Why don't you, and this is a topic that a lot of agents don't speak freely about. So I'm going to ask you questions. You can feel free to answer, not answer, go as deep as you want. But the whole point of this is if someone is looking to buy an agency, it's not as easy as, hey, all you do is apply a multiple of revenue and call it a day. But if you talk to other people, it might sound like it's that easy, right? Like
Yes.
We talk in these really easy ways. So I'd love for you to walk me through your perspective as an agent who is looking to grow by acquisition. What have you learned as you've moved through the process and what the reality is behind that process?
I hope we have about 3 hours to do this, by the way. So I'd say the first thing is you have to get your own house in order. 3 years ago, I switched to independent. And so I didn't have P&Ls. I didn't really know what a management system was. I knew I had to have it. And fortunately, I'm around the right people that guided me and got me to that point. So when you and I started talking acquisitions, I already had the accounting set up. I had the management system set up. My data was clean. I could show someone what I had because most people are not going to have $1 million sitting around the bank account, especially as a small agency. So you're going to have to go to a bank. And the bank's going to require that, my P&L's in order and I actually know what I'm doing. Same thing for the acquisition agency. But if your P&L's not in order, there's no bank that's going to lend to you because why would they? And so you really have to prepare yourself and get the basics done and have, I think, show that you are profitable, show you have EBITDA, which is Carey's favorite word in the world. Thank you for the hat.
You're welcome.
And the other reason you need to do that, I think, and this is my learning experience, is once I had my numbers in a row, now I could analyze another agency. If I don't, I mean, because I know my numbers, right? But you get a new agency and you get some P&Ls. When we were doing the pro formas, I have to understand what you're doing as the valuation side of it. Does that make sense? Can I really do that? And what is that EBITDA? Because I need to cash flow this thing and make sure I can actually make the payment. That's important. I mean, it's one thing to get money from the bank. It's another thing to actually make the payment. And now I can pro forma this thing out for 10 years, which is what I ended up doing with the acquisition we're working on. And it cash flows beautifully. So, but yeah, there's a lot you need to do and get prepared for.
When you were looking at different agencies, I assume you did not just like the first one you saw, that's the one you bought. I assume that there were a couple that you went through. What were some of the like big red flags that you saw in other agencies that you were just like, nope, I'm good, let me move on?
The first one that I was someone that came to me, who I'd known for about a year, and he had no P&L. He had basically got himself into debt by thinking, if I do enough marketing and do enough podcasts, they will come. It's build it, they will come. And that's not how this business works. Your first 3 years of opening an agency independent is a grind. And honestly, it's awful, but you just keep grinding. And so that was a lot of red flags. Carey helped me kind of to push me in the right direction. I will give her a lot of credit because you still think, yeah, I could pull this off. This will work. I'll just give him a low multiple. The second thing is if there is no book of business report. The acquisition that I'm currently doing now is 100% paper-based, so that's harder. But the first one we talked about, their management system was a mess. I mean, they had 6 duplicates of every policy. The agency owner had no idea what their book of business was. And I'm just saying, give me a book of business, give me an idea of your premium. And there was no idea. So that's terrifying. And I think that's back to your point, Carey. I think that's when agencies will say, okay, I'll just give you a multiple of what I think your revenue is based on your P&L. But if you have all state minimum auto, monoline auto, or you have business you don't want, carriers, I know we'll talk about carriers and getting appointments, but carriers you don't really want to work with or that you don't like or you don't have, that's really, really important. I'm about ready to find out how important that is, but that's really important because there's a lot of work. I mean, I feel like right now I'm sitting at the bottom of the Hoover Dam with my finger in a crack because I know the flood's coming. I just can't start anything until we get it done. But that all that information, even for smaller acquisitions, because I've known agencies that have bought $500,000, $250,000. We'll call that small, and then their whole focus is on getting that brought in, getting it into your. And now they're wasting money. They're losing money on the acquisition, where that should be somewhat seamless. Hopefully, there's going to be problems, but I think that's, you got to really dig deep into this, and it's not just about buying premium.
If you're like me and many other small businesses across the country where hiring, training, and retaining employees is a challenge, Agency VA has a solution for you. Agency VA has over 1,000 VAs hired, managed, and trained in the Philippines, Latin America, and India. But did you also know they have 100 licensed agents here in the U.S. that can help you manage your book? I use a VA who lives in the Philippines, and I absolutely love her. The process was simple. We had a consultation where they asked me my needs, goals, and concerns, and matched me with Allie, who has been an absolute game changer for me. Employing Allie through Agency VA has allowed me to focus on my business without worrying about HR concerns, turnover, and monitoring payroll. The best part is the Agency VA team was eager to help my company and also make sure that Allie is getting employee benefits, a competitive salary to help her live a better life in the Philippines. If this is something that you are struggling with inside your agency, please visit Agency VA /Insurance Refocused and set up a time to talk to them about your hiring needs. Hey guys, if you're looking to improve your bottom line, allow your team to operate efficiently, and really improve that customer retention, I believe you should check out Ascend. Ascend is the all-in-one insurance payment solution. They are focused on streamlining your invoicing, premium financing, accounting, and they'll even make your carrier payables for you. They are taking agency bill and making it as easy as direct bill. That is a game changer. They integrate with all of the major AMS players, and here's the best part. It's free. There is no subscription, no cost to you. They allow your customers to pay how they want. If you are interested in improving your efficiency, go visit ascend.com/insurance refocused and let them know that we sent you. Well, you just said something, Rob, that it was in the beginning of what you just started to say, but it was important because you said, I sometimes think, well, I can just offer them a low multiple and it'll be okay. But the reality is, if the book of business you're buying isn't a fit for your agency or there are red flags, you do need someone that will actually point that out and help you not just fall in love with doing a deal, but actually find the deal that makes the most sense for your agency. And I think that's a problem in a lot of people's situations where they fall in love with the idea of acquiring and they don't actually think about what makes sense for their agency.
I think that's critical. Right? I will give you an example. I knew someone that bought their personal lines. Like there's a lot of personal lines agencies out there, 95% personal, 5%. So they don't really know commercial. In this hard market, people are starting to try it more. So you buy a commercial book of business and you've never done commercial business. You don't even know what a certificate of insurance is, right? You don't know how to create one out of your management system. Your people are not trained. That's a disaster. I have been asked by people who bought books of business, commercial, say, can you help us create a certificate of insurance? We don't know how to do that. So now you've created a whole separate process for some poor team member, and you got to have the processes in place. I mean, it's never going to be a perfect match, but I would say 80, 90% should flow in pretty smoothly. And then, the onesie, twosie, the small stuff, you'll figure out. But if everything is figuring it out, I mean, I don't suggest anyone try to get into a new niche line of business, state, whatever you want to do, buy an acquisition, because you have no idea what the processes are.
One of the other things that you said in that first part when you were talking was sometimes you look at paper agencies, and if anyone knows anything about you, Rob, it's that you are like technology. You're always trying to implement and use new technology or use the technology you have in different ways. That would be really, really hard. So what in that situation would you have done if you bought a paper agency and had to bring it into all of your technology?
Well, I'm actually about ready to find out. So, yeah, the agency that we're getting close to is probably about a week out, honestly. And what I had to do was, first of all, you pay lower multiples because they're not as efficient. Their profit margins were pretty good, but it's all about changing the mindset. I've got 2 new team members coming on board who's been doing it the same way for literally 25 years. And there's a risk there. There's a huge risk there. I mean, 2 of them could be, nope, peace out. I'm done. This is not going to work. And I know that. Hence the retention clause in the purchase agreement to save me. But I think it will work. And it's all about not being a bull in the china shop, which is what I tend to do. Like, hey, look at all this cool stuff. We'll figure it out. And it was interesting because my current team said to me when we were talking about it, one of the women said, Rob, this is what we did. We were very much paper-based and we converted to technology, and it was painful at points. It wasn't fun at points. And she's like, look at us now. I mean, we didn't start like this 100%. A lot of it was paper. I mean, we had a management system, but a lot of it was paper. And I said, you're right. That's exactly what this is. So yeah, there's a risk, but I think the margins And if you're successful, the profit you can bring out of these paper-based agencies, because I hate to say this, and I'll probably be struck down by somebody, but paper-based agencies aren't going to survive. I mean, their day is coming. It's just a question of whether they convert to technology, which is hard, right? Change is hard for everybody. And honestly, those agency owners that were running it, they were very successful. I mean, success is what's in your mind, right? Success is not $100 million agency for a lot of people. You're paying the bills, you get a salary. Some people call it a lifestyle agency, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's where change is hard. But the perpetuation part of it, and you're bringing in your generation now, Lindsay, not my generation, is not going to put up with that. I mean, there's no way I could see you working in a paper-based agency. That's just, or any of my kids. You're the same age as my kids. There's no way. You'd be like, day one, when I said to you, okay, print this out and go over to that filing cabinet, Lindsay, and put it in the correct order and color code it blue, you'd be like, see ya.
What's so funny is my boyfriend's family owns a business, and they also live in Charleston, so we go to their house sometimes, and they have a printer. And I was like, you guys are hardly ever here. Why do you own like this like huge like office printer in your home? Like, this is ridiculous. And they were like, oh, well, when we work from home, we fax our papers to home, and we have a filing cabinet, and like, that's just how we like to do it. And I'm like, there's email for that. There's Google Docs for that.
I was going to say that. Yeah. Dropbox.
What are you talking about? Like, no. Yeah. Working in a paper agency would probably put me into a coma.
You wouldn't last 15 minutes.
Yeah. No, I would be so frustrated.
And I mean, I work with my daughter. I'm fortunate to do that. And she actually is, I hate to say impressed, but she's like, wow, you kind of understand this. I don't understand a lot of the technology. I can get the process and know I have a problem and there's software to fix it. But it allows you to scale. I mean, my technology budget's big, but I don't have to hire bodies. When we make this acquisition, this will double me in premium and revenue. And I'm not bringing anyone on. And the two team members of the acquisition agency, I have already, in the space of one visit up there and spent 4 days watching what they do, have freed up probably 20 hours a week for them, because everything takes forever, and I walked one of them through, okay, instead of you printing out that confirmation of adding an auto, you print it as a PDF and you save it to Hawksoft and you're done. She's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah. I said, so in all the cell phone numbers and we're going to have email and, they have one email address for the whole office.
That's not uncommon. I'll tell you that.
No,
it's not that uncommon.
It's not. This was, when I got into this agency, I had heard of these kind of agencies and all of it's true.
So Rob, I have two questions for you. I think the first thing I just want to say something, because you said something that I think we all believe, that paper agencies won't survive. But I think I'd say it a little different. And here's the reason why. Our industry moves slow. There's no two ways around it. The way I would make that statement is paper agencies will have a difficulty thriving. They might survive, but they're not going to compete. There are too many other agencies adopting technology, adopting tools and a mindset to be predictive in the way they handle their customers. And I get it. It's a small percentage now, but as people shift and new owners take over, Lindsay's generation becomes the agency owners, that wave is not slowing down. It's going to get faster and faster and faster. And the marketplace is demanding it. Customers are demanding it. Our environment's demanding it. So while I don't believe they won't survive 100%, I think they won't thrive, and they will be the targets of acquisitions. No two ways around that. Right?
I think that's a better way to say it. Yeah, to say but I think also we're going to see the value of those agencies is going to drop. It's dropping now.
Yeah, no doubt.
So if you have this asset, I mean, I view what I'm doing, I'm not building a revenue stream. I'm building an asset. that I'm going to sell in 7 to 10 years or perpetuate or something. Right now, it's a sale. That's my goal. Now, the revenue streams is what you're securitizing, but I'm building an asset that will be a multiple of X, and I sell the asset and off I go. Those, because of the lack of technology, because of the lack of, because when you have no when you have no technology, you have no process, right? That's just a definition, because you can't track anything, and you can't scale. And these are local agencies; they're geographically constrained, and right, they will survive in smaller towns. That's where a lot of these agencies are. The one horse town, the one without a stoplight. Because you can, I mean, big agencies can just drop right in digitally,
Right.
take away all their business.
Right. So you started with, I had to get my own house in order. I had to actually know what kind of agency I'm looking for and be able to discern which ones are a fit for my agencies, which one are not, and what those things are. But then, you know, talk to me about how you made yourself attractive to a potential seller, because the reality is every seller has about 10 to 15 potential buyers, if not more. If they actually post their agency on one of these, online tools, it's even greater than that. We are in a seller's market. So can you talk a little bit about how you made your, because a lot of agencies don't think I can compete with others. I'm this or I'm that, and maybe I'm not as competitive as a buyer as others might be. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
I think that's important. And you and I have talked about this a number of times. And I had the pleasure of hearing you speak and to discuss this. It's about matching a culture. It's about who you are as a human being. The agency I'm acquiring, I had to look the woman in the eye and promise her I would take care of her team and take care of her clients. My website is Patriotic Insurance Group. Very much red, white, and blue. I am who I am. Take it or leave it. And that was very appealing to her. Apparently, I was told that she watched a video that I'd put on my website, and that showed her my personality, showed her who I was. And that's the way we have to brand ourselves. That was unintentional. That was not done on purpose. That's just how we brand ourselves. And I like doing videos. I'm a good speaker. I'm an awful writer. So if I need to do a blog, I go and just do a video, and then we transcribe. If you give me a blank piece of paper, I will not be able to start it. I just can't. And but I think, your point, Carey, is, you need to have that social media presence. You need to be out there. Ironically, this agency has zero social media presence. It's one of those things. But I think as an acquirer, you have to put out who you are. You got to stand up for what you believe in. And some people will like it, some people won't. But what it says is the team members know who I am and where I'm coming from.
And you got to be authentic too. Like if just putting a video out there, if it's not a representation of who you are, then people will know that 100%. I just think it's really interesting. I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, we're talking about videos, we're talking about technology, we're talking about all these things. Rob, I'm not going to ask you your age, but you're not the average agency that we're thinking has embraced all of this stuff, but you have, and look what it's done to position you, which is super interesting.
Exactly. I'm 59. I'm a baby boomer. I'm the tail end. I'm born in 63. I'm the baby boomer generation. Technology is not something to be afraid of. Technology is an investment. And did I have, and I probably still do, did I do the thing that most people do, is go to IAOA and buy everything? Yes. I'm guilty as charged. I didn't do that this year. But now what I'm doing is I'm leveraging my relationships with these insurtechs and helping them, because they don't know insurance. Some of them do, some of them don't, and the reason I do that is 80% of this industry, thank you, Carey, for this stat, I use it all the time, is below 1.25 million of revenue. They're small agencies like me. Even my combined agencies will be below that number. I want to make sure that these insurtechs price and market to that group. That's the group that needs help. We need help. I've talked to other insurtechs where the cost is, it's cost prohibitive, and it is what it is. It's like, okay, you obviously don't want me. I'm not paying you $2,000 a month for your little widget because I can't make money on that. So, so I think you got to look at technology as a person. We're starting to get RPA. We have bots. I mean, I use an RPA in my office now. I'm building another one that's going to save me hours. The first bot I brought in saved my VA probably 2 hours a day. I mean, you can't, and it cost me $90 a month. I mean, that's not even an argument. I mean, how do you argue against that? So you're right, Carey. And I think age is a number.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up with any of this stuff, but if you understand the processes and you understand how things work, you will fall upon these insurtechs and go, oh, that's what you do? Okay. Either as a smaller agency, either we don't do it now, and this would be really good to have for us, or we do it and it's completely manual. Now we can automate it, because what I wanted to build was a platform that can scale without adding a lot more people and a lot more expense. And that's what we have. I mean, I literally have it set where I can acquire this agency. I can double this in 3 or 4 years is my goal. And I'm not hiring anybody. I might have to bring on one more VA. I don't need any more bodies. We have plenty of capacity right now. So I'll be double this and have very few employees, and yet providing really good customer service to my clients.
So one other thing I would love to ask you about is, like, you are independent. Do you have all the carriers that your agency you're buying has on their book? And what does that look like?
That is a great question, because that, I think, can be a showstopper very quickly. You don't want to have to book roll an acquisition. That's hard. And carriers right now, honestly, in this market probably wouldn't do it anyways. They don't want any business. I'm in New York, so we're following California and Florida. And we already have capacities, but even, let's say we're in a soft market, normal market. That's a lot of work. So one of the big things that we did was I looked at like 80% of the premium and what the carriers were. And I didn't have a couple of them. In New York, we have a lot of these little mutuals that are geographically located based on the risk. So one of them, they insure island homes. Who's going to insure an island home? You talk to travelers about that, they're going to laugh at you, right? So, but that's the beauty. We have those. So, and the other agency had a big book, so they appoint me. But you've got to go through line by line. And then what I also did is I looked at their E&S business. They don't have a lot of it, and that's all going to be BORs. I don't need 4 wholesale brokers. I have 3 now. I use 1 mainly, and that's a BOR. So I sent those policies and that information to my underwriter and said, hey, I've got 10 of these things. I'm acquiring a book. Can we just BOR all of this? And he's like, 100%, no problem. We can do it all. We'll figure it out. So you have to look at it from a personal line side, a commercial side, because that's a big deal, and then from an E&S side. And then if you don't have the markets, then you've got to work on a network, an aggregator, someone like that, because I believe most aggregators will work with you and say, hey, I don't have Travelers. I don't have whatever carrier I don't have. Can I move this book to you? And, why would an aggregator say no to that? They're not going to say no. Be careful when you talk with aggregators. I'm not going to get into that conversation right here and now, but make sure you read the contract. So I was with an aggregator. I am since free of that aggregator. So I don't, I had to use another one though, which helps me build my business. That's what you need. So, but it's a great question, because you don't want to have a carrier you've never had, and that's 25% of the book, because you don't know how to quote, you don't know the underwriter, it could be a service disaster for you.
And the reality is that carrier might not appoint you anyway. Like you have to make sure that you have a pathway to because in this market, there's actually, instances where both agencies have the carrier. They think it's going to be a clean transfer. But once there's a transfer of ownership, the carrier takes that opportunity to say, you know what, that book of business wasn't ideal for us anyway, so we're going to cancel the contract. It's not a good thing. Like, you just have to be prepared and make sure that you cross all your T's, dot all your I's, and think about it. This is a tricky market that we're in. There's no two ways around that.
Yeah. And like you said, it being a seller's market, I had two carriers that are going to, at the closing, are going to terminate the agency I'm acquiring, to terminate their code, and will not appoint me because they're not appointing new agents in New York, which from a business perspective, I get it. That's their rule. From a logic perspective, it's ridiculous. But now I know, and now you're just going to do a book roll. And I'm sure I can talk to someone and say, hey, here's what I have. I'm just going to move it over to you. But I think the thing that's the criminal part about it is you got to get it done fast because you just lost all those commissions. Like, they'll keep renewing the policy. So be very careful. These carriers, I've had them do this to me. These carriers will keep renewing policies without an appointment. I have one of them right now, and we're moving all that book, but you just don't get commissions. And if you're not tracking your data, and even if you reconcile commissions, it's really hard to go in and say, how many active policies do I have that don't have commission? That's really hard to do, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. So got to be careful that if you acquire a book of business and they terminate you for some reason, those commissions are not rolling in. Do you price the multiple differently? I don't know. If it's a big enough book, I don't know. Or maybe you just don't do the acquisition. That's the other side of it too.
It's crazy to think that people who are running paper agencies, like, how are you keeping track of that? You're not. There's no way you're keeping track of that. So you're leaving money on the table.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't want to implement technology. Like, that's crazy.
Are you talking about reconciling commissions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a stat. About 30% of a management systems customers do not reconcile commissions. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said that wrong. Only 30% reconcile commissions. Even people with management systems, Lindsay, do not reconcile commissions. They trust the carriers. Now, most of them are personal lines based. There's no E&S. So, again, the downloads come down and commissions, they match. It's not that hard to really do it, but do you want to trust the carriers? No, I've been reconciling commissions for the last year. And guess what? Now my book of business and my P&L match perfectly. I also charge fees. That's completely 100% reconciled. I have someone auditing my trust account. I'm the only one in the trust account. I'm a control freak, I admit it, but I also don't want to put anyone else. But I want someone looking at it. I'm not going to steal for myself, but I don't want to make a mistake. It's not my money. It's premium money, right? Yeah. So.
All right, Rob. Well, we covered some of the topics, not nearly all of the topics when you acquire a book of business. That'd be impossible. And I don't even think we could do it in 3 hours, to be quite honest with you. But here's what I'd love to leave our listeners with. If you had to give someone a piece of advice as they're starting through this process as the first time around, what would you tell them?
Make sure you have a team around you. And that team would be Carey Wallace. I'm just going to say it. For valuations, make sure you have an attorney. Make sure you have an accountant. Make sure you have these people around you. What I did is when we won the bid, I interviewed 7 agency owners that had done acquisitions with paper and interviewed all of them and said, how did you do it? What sword did you fall on? Go through that drill and make sure you have the right people around you. This is not the time to go cheap. Too many people in this industry go cheap. Oh, that's too expensive. Why are you doing your accounting? Well, I could probably go on ChatGPT right now and say, give me a purchase agreement to acquire an insurance agency. And I'm sure it would be wonderful. I don't even want to say the word. That is not a good idea. My attorney has been priceless. I don't care that he's charging me thousands of dollars, because if he doesn't do what he's doing and there's a problem, especially with paper-based, because you got to remember, we don't really know what the book of business is. We have book of business reports, right? Fortunately, we got a lot of information. I'm not saying that the agency owner that I'm buying from, she's a very honest, ethical person. But again, to your point, Lindsay, how do you know? Oh, that's right. We forgot about insurance company A in this filing cabinet because we don't really, so part of the purchase agreement is it a valid book of business? Is here's the revenue we expect. If we don't get that, there's penalties. But there's all these things to protect me from myself. So I would say you have to have an evaluation person, and it has to be EBITDA. I could say smaller books, maybe you do a revenue because there really isn't. There's no expenses. But if you're bringing expenses on board, like I'm bringing a whole agency on board, you got to have it, because who cares if they have $500,000 of commission? If their expense base is huge and I can't get rid of it, it's not the way I run my agency. So a team, and talk to other agency owners that have done it and who have the scars to prove it.
Well, Rob, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. We could literally talk to you all day long. I could ask you so many more questions. I feel like this has been such a great conversation. So thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure and an honor to be here.
If someone wanted to reach out to you and have you be one of their 7 people they interview, where can they reach you at?
You can go to my website, Patriotic Insurance Group. My email is rob@patrioticinsurancegroup.com. That's the best way to reach me. I'd be more than happy to help anybody. That's how I've gotten to where I am, is by other people helping me. And that's just what you do. You keep giving back and you keep getting the rewards.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.